Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Cox from the New York Alliance for Inclusion and Innovation. I'm here with my partner for this webinar today, Anthony Ismael. What we were hoping to do with this webinar is give DSPs an overview of some of the workforce incentive payments that they are going to be receiving over the next couple months, associated with the longevity and retention bonuses that were delivered through the American Rescue Plan Act via the state. So with that, Anthony, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Anthony Ismael, and I will be co-presenting today with my partner, Ryan Cox.
So should we get right into the questions, Anthony?
Yes, we should.
Perfect.
What bonus payments will I be receiving?
Well, that's a great place to start. The bonus payments that you will be receiving are predicated on you being a 200 level code employee on the CFR, which for all intents and purposes, most of them will be classified as DSPs. The payments that you'll be receiving that we're going to talk about today are the longevity payment and the retention payment. And for ease of conversation, we might be referring to them as the 20% bonuses, but just keep in mind that based on the formula, you might be receiving a different amount that's, not exactly 20% of your salary for those periods in question. Now, there are 4 actual bonuses associated with the workforce incentive payments. There's also the vaccination incentive and the COVID service bonus. Those payments are going to be coming later, and we're not going to talk about them as much on this webinar. We're really going to focus on the longevity and the retention payment.
Excellent. Why am I receiving these bonuses?
That's another great question. So back in the spring of 2021, federal legislation was passed called the American Rescue Plan Act in federal Congress. And one of the provisions of that bill was that states would receive an extra 10% in federal funds on home and community-based services. So in pretty layman's terms example, if the state was spending $100 on home and community-based services, they were spending $50 from the state and $50 from the federal government. Now the federal government is paying $60 and the state is paying $40. So that difference of $10 frees up a lot of funding for the state, and that $10 is actually worth over $1 billion in New York State. So what they decided to do, well, they were required to submit a spending plan to the federal government on how they were going to spend that extra $1 billion+ dollars. And what the state decided to do was to invest heavily in DSP workforce incentives. So incentives to DSPs are the largest component of the spending plan that was submitted by the state. So a lot of these bonus payments are predicated on those dollars.
Great explanation. How will my bonus payment amounts determined?
So that is a good question. And it's basically what the state is doing for the longevity and the retention bonuses is it's taking the CFR experience for the agencies from 2019 and translating that to current day. So if you were eligible based on the formulas that we're going to talk about a little bit later, your agency is receiving a pot of money based on their 2019 experience, and they're distributing it to eligible DSPs now. There's a specific formula that we're going to talk about in a little bit that the agency is going to use to distribute those funds to DSPs. But essentially, the way it's going to work is that all DSPs are going to receive a uniform percentage of money, but depending on how much money you made during the longevity and the retention period, your dollar amount might be different, but your percentage of money should be the same as every other DSP in your agency. Now, the one other thing that I want to say, Anthony, is that that could translate from the period of 2019 until present day. It could result in that 20% becoming more or less than 20% just based on what the agency's experience was from 2019 until now. So when we talk about 20% of your annual base salary, that's not exactly specific to each individual. That's more of a generalization.
Excellent. What if I already received a bonus from my agency previously?
Now this is an important point. So a lot of agencies gave salary increases and bonuses around the holiday times. Those bonuses are completely separate from the bonuses that we're going to be talking about today. Those bonuses that you may have received previously were agency-driven bonuses. These bonuses are federal money that's coming to the state and then being delivered to DSPs or 200 level code employees on the CFR based on a specific formula and a specific guidance document. But the thing that's important to know is that you are entitled to those bonuses if you meet the eligibility requirements, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this webinar.
Okay. And the question on DSP's minds is, how do I know if I am eligible or not?
That's, and that's probably the crux of all the DSP questions here is, how do I know if I'm eligible and how much money am I going to receive? So how do I know if I'm eligible? This is an important concept. There's, for the longevity bonus, it's really 3 prongs that I like to think about it in. So you're eligible for the longevity bonus if you were employed by the agency at some point during the period of April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021, and you continue to be employed by the provider agency through the first payroll of September 1st, 2021, and you're employed by the agency when they distribute the payments. So essentially, if you were employed during April 1st, 2020 through 2021, employed as of September 1st, 2021, and continue to be employed by the agency now, you are entitled to the longevity bonus. Now, just skipping ahead to the next slide, Anthony, for the retention bonus, it's very similar, only a little bit different in terms of the period in question. So if you recall, if I can just go back to the last slide, it was April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021. For the retention bonus, it's the following fiscal year, April 1st, 2021 through March of 2022, and the second and third prongs remain consistent. Now, the next slide gets into if you are a DSP for whom the fiscal intermediary is the employer of record, those 3 prongs remain the same, except for the fact that the dates in question are changed. So it's actually September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021 for both the longevity and the retention payment. And for family care providers, the calculation for longevity and retention payments was 20% of the difficulty of care payment based on paid claims activities for the period of September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021, the same period as when a fiscal intermediary is the employer of record.
That's an excellent explanation. When will I start to receive these payments?
So the longevity payment, which was delivered to agencies on March 23rd of 2022, so about 2 weeks ago now, as we're recording this webinar, those payments must be made to DSPs within 90 days of the agency receiving funds. So the agency received those funds on March 23rd. They have 90 days from that period to fully disperse those funds to the employees. The retention payment is similar, but a little bit different. Those funds were also received on the 23rd, and they will be distributed to staff. The first payment needs to be done within 90 days, and the last payment needs to be done within 180 days. So basically 3 months to make the first payment and 6 months to complete the payment regimen. And one other important concept here, Anthony, is that the retention payment requires a distribution plan to be completed by the agency and communicated to all employees, so everyone knows how that money will be distributed. So within those 2 time periods, there's a little bit of flexibility for the agency, as long as they fully disperse the payments within 90 days for the longevity payment and make the first payment within 90 days and the full payments within 180 days for the retention payment. That's allowable. So there's a little bit of flexibility. Some agencies are choosing to do it, front end and back end. Some are doing it evenly throughout those 2 periods. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. So you might want to inquire with your agency how they're doing the longevity and retention payments and how they're delivering those to eligible staff.
Okay, Ryan, how will I get these payments?
And once again, this is kind of a similar concept. These are dependent upon your agency's distribution plan. Some agencies are delivering these as a bonus payment outside of your weekly paycheck or your biweekly paycheck, and others are including them with your weekly or biweekly paychecks, just depending on ease of getting those payments out. So, it really depends on the agency's distribution plan and how they're choosing to deliver those funds. But if you'll just, harken back to the principle of the longevity payment has to be delivered to DSPs within 90 days, and the retention payment has to be delivered within 180 days. Those are kind of the goalposts, if you will, for the 2 payments. However, the agency decides to distribute those payments within those goalposts is up to the agency and subject to their distribution plan. So if you'd like to know, please ask your agency for the distribution plan for the retention payment.
Okay. Ryan, will I get these bonus payments every year now?
No, I mean, that's important to know here, is that these payments, the longevity and retention payments, are specific to the American Rescue Plan Act. So you shouldn't expect this money every single year. This is simply a product of the American Rescue Plan Act and is being delivered by states to employees or DSPs associated with the guidelines and the formulas associated in the formulas.
Okay. How will this extra money affect some of the benefits I or my family receive?
And this is a great question, Anthony. And this is where I think we want to save these kinds of questions for some of the later webinars that we're planning, because we're talking about a pretty significant amount of money here. For many DSPs, this will represent a $20,000, $30,000, perhaps even $40,000 bonus when the longevity and retention payments are combined. So it's very impactful. And what could happen is it could put you above an income threshold for certain benefits, public benefits that you were receiving previously, but you won't continue to receive because you received such a significant amount of money. Because a lot of the public benefit programs are means-based, which is a fancy way of saying how much money you make traditionally, because you're getting a bonus, well in excess of what you typically get in a given year. That could make you ineligible for certain benefits. But that's certainly something that we should discuss in a future webinar, because I am not an expert in those particular benefits.
Great. Now, Ryan, what should I do with the bonus money?
Another great question that really depends on your individual circumstance. Everybody's situation is different when it comes to finances, but one of the things that we are planning to do is put out a webinar in the future that will talk about best practices. If you're getting a $20,000 bonus, there are things that are more financially advantageous to you in terms of decision making than others, and just being aware of all those things that are out there and all the opportunities that are out there are really important. So what we're hoping to do in a future webinar is bring somebody in who can kind of speak to those circumstances and what's the best practices to use that money for.
So a vacation to Cabo San Lucas would not be a good idea if this bonus.
Well, I know what you're doing with your bonus money, Anthony, but a vacation to Cabo San Lucas, while appropriate for Anthony, Ismael might not be appropriate for everyone. So, just keep that in mind when you receive the money. So, and remember that this money is a one-time bonus. So you're not going to be receiving this money every year. So in order to make that money work for you in this particular circumstance, you might want to think long and hard about how you're going to use it. Not that a trip to Cabo San Lucas is not a great use of the money. It just might not work for everyone.
Well, I look forward to our future presentations where we can discuss these questions in more details with experts that will hopefully assist DSPs in making great decisions with this once-in-a-lifetime bonus money from the American Rescue Plan.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in today. I hope it was informative and taught you a little bit about the money that you'll be receiving, how you'll be receiving it, and to what amount. So thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Nice job, you guys.
How do we do, Kristen?